Giant crocodile hunting trips often start at dawn when the water surface is still covered in mist and the swamp is quiet. Only the chirping of insects and the sound of water moving gently under the boat can be heard. The hunters quietly enter the deep water where giant crocodiles are believed to be hiding. They carry special tools such as iron hooks, ropes, large iron traps and sometimes even anesthetic dart guns. Every move must be careful because just one loud noise can cause the giant crocodile to escape or worse, attack back. When they discover traces such as large crawling marks on the mud or strange water bubbles floating on the surface of the swamp, they quickly prepare traps. Giant traps are fixed underwater with wooden stakes and steel chains. Bait is large pieces of meat with a strong fishy smell to attract the animal. After setting the trap, the team often retreats and hides at a safe distance to observe because crocodiles are very alert. If they smell human scent, they will never bite the bait. The waiting time can sometimes last for hours or even years. At night, when the trap shook violently and the water surface boiled, they knew the monster was caught in the net. At this time, everyone immediately took action. The rope was stretched all over the giant crocodile's body. It struggled violently, water splashed everywhere, its deep roar echoed throughout the swamp, making anyone who witnessed it shiver. Some people had to climb on its back to secure its head and legs, while others used ropes to tie its jaws tightly so it could not bite people. Only when the crocodile was completely controlled did they pull it ashore. This step was extremely difficult because each crocodile weighed hundreds of kilograms, even more than a ton. It required a pulley or an auxiliary crane. Once brought ashore, the crocodile was tied tightly and brought to the harvesting area. Here, workers began to measure and record the size, weight, and length of the jaw and tail. Then they used specialized tools to cut off the skin. First, the crocodile skin was skillfully separated into large pieces because this was the most valuable part that could be exported to make bags. Shoes, belts, and other high-end items. Next was the crocodile meat. The meat is cut and sorted in the tail and back, which are the best, and are often sold to large restaurants or exported, while the organs and bones are used as animal feed or medicinal materials. The preliminary processing takes place on the spot with modern machines. Cleaning, cutting, and quick freezing to keep the freshness. Each giant crocodile after harvest can bring thousands of dollars in profit and is the result of a whole day of hard work. The hunters, after finishing their work, will wipe their sweat and look at the giant crocodile lying still on the shore of the lagoon without being able to help but breathe a sigh of relief. The hunting journey is both a battle for survival and a testament to the bravery and great skills of humans against the wild beasts that have dominated this wild water for millions of years after the giant crocodiles are harvested. The processing and transportation process is also a step that requires meticulousness and absolute safety because their bodies are too large. Their skin is thick and heavy, so moving out of the swamp is not easy. The hunting team must use a specialized truck with a hydraulic crane to lift the crocodiles onto the truck bed, and at the same time wrap them tightly with steel chains to avoid slipping or rolling while moving. The road leaving the swamp area is often very muddy and dangerous. The wheels must grip the mud to be able to go through each turn. It must be carefully calculated because with just a little carelessness, the whole vehicle and hundreds of kilograms of crocodiles can slide into the deep mud when reaching the central processing area. The crocodiles are brought into a cold storage area to prevent the meat from spoiling before proceeding to completely separate the skin. The crocodile skinning process requires the dexterity of skilled workers. They must use sharp knives to peel off each layer of thick skin without tearing or scratching the surface because even a small scratch will significantly reduce the value of the skin. The skin after being separated will be washed with concentrated salt water. Then soak in preservatives and dry in the sun or dry at standard temperature to keep the softness and natural shine. At the same time, the crocodile meat is taken to a large butchering area where workers wear pure white protective clothing, holding electric knives to divide the crocodile body into separate parts. The white meat in the tail is considered the most valuable part. Sweet, low in fat and is packaged into vacuum-sealed cubes to be sent to restaurants specializing in crocodile meat abroad. The meat in the back and legs is cut into small pieces to make sausages, meatballs or frozen for export to Asian and European countries, while the head, bones and thick skin in the belly are transferred to the handicraft production area to make statues, keychains, or special decorations. The large, sharp and ivory white crocodile teeth are also collected to be polished into unique souvenirs or jewelry after the entire processing is completed. Each giant crocodile can bring great economic value not only in the skin but also in the meat and byproducts. Every step is recorded, marked, and coded to ensure transparency and legality in the supply chain. Behind those products are the efforts, sweat, and daring of hunters who have faced danger in the wild waters. Every hunting season ends. They sit by the fire and tell each other stories about the time when the crocodile almost capsized their boat, about the monster as big as a tree trunk, or the bite that made the whole boat tilt. Just one small mistake can cost them their lives. Therefore, crocodile hunting is not only a job but also a challenge of human courage and mettle in the midst of fierce nature. Those hunters understand that even though they have caught giant crocodiles, they must always respect the power of this animal because only respect can help them survive and continue that adventurous journey in the following hunting seasons when night falls on the swamp. The quiet air covers the giant crocodile hunters' camps. The firelight from the burning piles of firewood reflects on their sunburned and scratched faces. Those who have spent the whole day fighting the most ferocious animal in this water area. The chirping of insects blends with the croaking of frogs to create the night music of the water forest. But for them, this is a rare moment of rest after a long tiring day. They sit together around the kitchen, sharing a simple meal of grilled crocodile meat, salt and some wild vegetables. But it is cozy and full of pride. In each person's eyes, there is pride for having overcome danger, catching a giant crocodile that no one in the area dares to approach the next morning. They wake up early to continue their work of checking the remaining traps around the swamp. Sometimes, they encounter smaller crocodiles that have been trapped, At that time, they will release them because they only hunt mature, large crocodiles with high economic value. This not only helps maintain the environment but also helps maintain the environment. Ecological balance, but also ensure that the wild crocodile resource is not exhausted after completing the hunt. They clean the traps, clean the tools, and then retreat to the main camp where the refrigerated truck is waiting to transport the processed crocodile batch to the final packaging workshop at the factory. Quality control experts will carefully check each crocodile skin for any tears, scars, or technical errors. If it meets the standards, the skin will be flattened, polished, and then exported to high-end leather factories in Italy, France, or Japan, where those pieces of skin will be turned into handbags, leather wallets, shoes, belts with a value dozens of times higher than the original purchase price. Meanwhile, the crocodile meat is frozen and transported by refrigerated container to luxury restaurants where the chef will turn them into specialties such as crocodile soup, stir-fried crocodile meat with black pepper, or crocodile hot pot with Chinese herbs. The dish is not only considered rare but also nutritious because crocodile meat contains more protein and less cholesterol than beef or chicken.
Right here. Where you want me to stick him right here? Yeah, stick him in the way. Don't even get to that.
In addition, the crocodile head giant crocodiles are also specially treated. In some places, people keep their heads intact to display, showing the strength and authority of the hunters of these ancient monsters. Some giant crocodile heads are painted, with ivory or metal dentures attached to them to display in natural museums or eco-tourism areas, capturing the majestic image of the creature that once dominated the waters millions of years ago. Every detail of the giant crocodile is fully utilized. Nothing is wasted because every part of its body has special value, and the story of the journey of hunting, harvesting, and processing those giant crocodiles is still passed down through generations of hunters as a symbol of courage, strength, and the harsh relationship between humans and wild nature over time. The profession of hunting giant crocodiles has gradually become a cultural feature in many tropical swamps and rivers, where people have to live by nature and face the most ferocious creatures directly.
I jumped.
The one that's ringing in my ears? Yeah. He ain't gonna do nothing.
Although it is risky, this is a job that brings a stable source of income for hundreds of households. Every rainy season, the water level rises, and crocodiles breed more. That is also the time when hunting teams gather to prepare for the big trip. They check the iron traps, sharpen knives, replace cables, check the boat engines, and reserve enough food for many days in the middle of the vast swamp. When everything is ready, they leave the dock at dawn. The flashlight shines through the mist, reflecting the bright eyes in the darkness. That cold light is the sign of the giant crocodiles hiding under the water. The confrontation begins with silence but always ends with violent noises, splashing water and the sound of metal colliding when the iron traps close for long-time hunters. They are no longer afraid like the first day, but instead, they have the calmness and experience that has been tempered through many years of facing death. They clearly understand the habits of crocodiles. Knowing when they will attack, when they pretend to be motionless to lure people closer. It is this experience that helps them to be able to catch giant crocodiles without much effort. Sometimes, on long trips, they encounter crocodiles with a size that is beyond all imagination. More than 6 meters long, weighing a ton, their bodies covered in mud and jet black scales sparkling under the sun. Those animals are not only hunting targets but also proof that the primitive wilderness still exists in the modern world. Capturing them is a feat that any hunter dreams of because their reputation will spread far and wide. Becoming a legend in the crocodile hunting world, there are people who have spent their whole lives following the profession. Going through dozens of hunting seasons, witnessing countless teammates die due to accidents or a sudden attack by wild animals. But they still stick together because for them, crocodile hunting is not only a way to make a living but also a passion. A survival instinct that is ingrained in their blood after each trip.
Beautiful.
They return with wounds, new stories and lessons about patience, courage and understanding of nature in the moments sitting by the riverbank watching the red sunset reflected on the water. They understand that between humans and giant crocodiles there always exists a strange bond that is mutual respect in an endless battle between intelligence and instinct. Between humans and harsh nature where only the strongest and wisest can survive and leave their mark in the history of that wild swamp in recent years. The hunting and harvesting of giant crocodiles has not only stopped at commercial purposes but also been associated with conservation and biological research. Many organizations have coordinated with local authorities to replan the swamp area, dividing legal hunting areas to avoid indiscriminate exploitation. Veteran hunters are now not only crocodile catchers but also become guides and collaborators for scientists. They help record data, monitor the movement, growth rate and hunting behavior of giant crocodiles in the natural environment, thereby contributing significantly to protecting the ecosystem and ensuring that resources are not depleted. Modern technology is also included in the process of harvesting and processing crocodiles. Today's hunting boats are equipped with GPS, water temperature measuring devices, sonar to detect underwater movements, helping hunting teams detect crocodiles early without having to wait for hours like before. Processing factories are also automated, ensuring food safety standards, international products while crocodile skin is tanned with new technology to help the skin soft, durable and environmentally friendly. Thanks to that, products from giant crocodiles have become luxury items sought after by famous fashion brands in the world. But behind those advances, the spirit and traditional skills of hunters have not changed. They still have to go into the water, still have to face the cold eyes of the monster hidden in the mud, still have to face the danger just an arm's length away. Every dive is a bet on life because just a mistake.
I'll hold that if you want to grab it.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to get this. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on a second. There we go.
A tail swing can cause the boat to capsize. A bite can end everything in an instant. Therefore, crocodile hunting always requires absolute solidarity between team members. No one is allowed to act alone. Every step must follow the signal of the team leader, the person with the most experience. This person is usually the one who decides when to set the trap, when to retreat, and when to take action to control the giant crocodile. After each successful hunt, they are again carefully recorded: the date, coordinates, weight and length of the crocodile, all stored in a notebook, a diary containing the history of a lifetime of people attached to the profession when they no longer have enough strength to hunt. The old hunters will pass on their experiences to the younger generation, teaching them how to read footprints in the mud, how to recognize whether a crocodile is hunting or sleeping, how to trick it into a trap without making a sound. Those stories gradually become oral legends, making the profession of hunting giant crocodiles not only a livelihood but also a part of the soul of the swamp where humans and nature are attached. Fight and coexist through generations. Looking back, the hunters understand that they are not conquerors of nature but people who learn to live in harmony with it. Each giant crocodile caught is not only a trophy but also a testament to the courage, perseverance and intelligence of humans before the primitive power of wild nature. And no matter how time passes, that swamp will still echo with the sound of water lapping, the sound of chains, the roar of beasts, the cries of fearless men who live with the legends of the deep waters, where the boundary between life and death is only a breath away in each new hunting season. When the first rains of the season fall, water from everywhere floods the swamp, which is also the time when giant crocodiles begin to move out of the deep caves to feed. Footprints as big as hats are clearly visible on the young mud, stretching for dozens of meters, signaling to the hunting teams that a giant has returned. Experienced hunters understand that this is the golden time to set traps, because crocodiles, when full of water and full of energy, are often less alert. They divide into small groups, quietly moving by wooden boat, each person carrying a separate task. One group sets steel traps, another observes the tracers, the remaining group prepares cables and drag nets. If they discover a crocodile resting near the water, they will carry out a siege tactic, using a large net to block both ends of the monster. When discovered, it will immediately dive into the water, struggling violently, causing the whole boat to shake, splashing water, the mud rolling up like a black wave, and its roar echoes throughout the forest. A worker quickly threw a large rope with an iron hook towards the animal's head, hooking it around its neck as hard as steel, while others rushed forward to hold onto its tail. After a few minutes of tense struggle, the crocodile gradually became exhausted, tightly bound by layers of chains and steel cables. Everyone cheered as it collapsed, its heavy breathing coming out like the sound of wind whistling through bamboo tubes. And they knew that another battle for survival had ended. With just one mistake, they could have lost their lives. But for them, that feeling of victory was incomparable when the crocodile was brought ashore. The early morning sunlight shone on its shiny black skin, reflecting like an ancient armor. Workers hurriedly measured its size. Some were over 7 meters long, weighed over 1.5 tons, and had bodies as big as wooden boats. They carefully recorded every detail and then processed them on the spot to avoid the meat from spoiling due to the tropical temperature. The thick and precious skin was separated first, dried, and preserved with salt. The white meat was packaged in plastic bags, large, and put into a mobile freezer. The hunters, after finishing, will rest on the shore of the lagoon. Clean up, disinfect tools, repair traps, and prepare for the next hunt in the evening. They sit around the fire, share each piece of fragrant grilled meat, tell about the biggest crocodile they have ever met, about the time the boat capsized and almost drowned, or about the bright eyes in the night that they believe are the souls of old crocodiles who have passed away. Some people say that crocodile hunting is a job of destiny, because only those who are truly born for this water area have enough perseverance and courage to pursue it until the end of their lives. Regardless of rain or shine, danger or lurking disease, they are still attached to the job as a part of their flesh and blood, because only in the swamp, among the sound of moving water and the deep roar of crocodiles, do they feel that they are truly living with the most primitive instincts of humans, facing, conquering, and surviving in the midst of that fierce nature. And like that, the story of hunting and harvesting giant crocodiles continues. Not only a job to make a living, but also a job to make a living became a symbol of strength, resilience, and courage, engraved in the history of people living in the wild waters, where the boundary between life and death is just a moment. In the dense forests where the wind blends with the chirping of insects, experienced hunters patiently wait for their prey, large, strong, and ferocious wild boars. Trapping and hunting wild boars requires not only skill but also a deep understanding of the animal's habits. Wild boars often live in small herds, moving flexibly in the deep forest, especially fond of bathing in mud and digging for roots and wild fruits to eat. To catch them, hunters must know the familiar paths and feeding areas of the herd. The work begins with tracking footprints, observing feces, plow marks on the ground, or traces of rubbed tree trunks to determine the places they often visit. After determining the path, the hunter sets traps. There are many types of traps used, the most common being pit traps, clamp traps, and wire traps. Pit traps are dug about 1.5 to 2 meters deep, covered with dry leaves, branches, and a little thin soil for camouflage, when wild boars accidentally step on them. They will fall into the pit and cannot escape. Clamp traps are placed along the trail, with a strong steel spring mechanism. When wild boars pass by and touch them, the trap will snap shut, clamping the animal's legs. Wire traps are also very effective, usually made of steel cable. The end of the wire is connected to a firmly fixed stake. The noose is placed at the right height of the wild boar's chest. When the animal rushes through, the rope will tighten, making it tied up and unable to escape. In addition to setting traps, many hunters also use bait to lure wild boars out of hiding. Bait can be wild fruits, corn, cassava, or tubers that pigs like, spread along the road or placed near the trap. Experienced people often use the characteristic stench of soil and mud to cover up human scent, avoiding alerting pigs. Once the trap is set, The hunter usually leaves the area in silence, sometimes even setting up a hut to watch from afar to wait for the results. Once the wild boar is caught in the trap, its roar echoes throughout the forest, signaling to the hunter that the prey is caught. At this time, extreme caution is needed because wild boars are very strong and can attack anyone who comes near with the sharp tusks. The hunter usually approaches from behind, using a spear or gun to quickly kill them, avoiding danger. After catching them, the butchering process takes place on the spot or is brought back to camp. Wild boar meat is famous for its firmness and deliciousness, especially the lean shoulder and ribs. The pig's skin is scraped clean, sometimes kept to be grilled until crispy, while the fat and organs are separated and used to prepare many different dishes. In many mountainous areas, hunting wild boar is not only a profession but also a tradition, closely linked to the people's lives. They consider hunting a large pig a source of pride, demonstrating their bravery and understanding of the forest. However, over time, many areas have restricted hunting to protect wildlife resources. Nowadays, many people have turned to raising hybrid wild boars for meat, both to meet demand and to reduce pressure on nature. However, the image of hunters venturing into the deep forest, silently setting traps, waiting in the quiet of the night is still a symbol of courage and ingenuity in life associated with the mountains and forests as the sun gradually sets behind the distant mountains. The air in the forest becomes cold and dense, which is also the time when wild boars begin to leave their dens to look for food. Hunters often choose this time to check their traps or lie in ambush near areas showing signs of strong pig activity. The sound of dry leaves rustling underfoot, the chirping of insects mixed with the sound of the wind makes the atmosphere tense. Just a small movement can make the pigs alert and run away. Experienced hunters always keep absolute silence, using the smell of forest smoke or coal ash to hide their body odor, avoiding detection if hunting in groups. They often split up. One sets the trap, one tracks, one holds the checkpoint, coordinating rhythmically to surround the prey. When a large wild boar is trapped, the real battle begins. The animal struggles violently, sometimes dragging heavy wooden stakes, destroying the surrounding bushes, its roar echoing as if in challenge. Hunters must act quickly, often using strong ropes to tie the legs or using long sticks as sticks to control them, avoiding being attacked. Sometimes it takes them hours to control a mature pig weighing hundreds of kilograms, with a muscular body and wild strength. After controlling it, they proceed to the process of killing it with a sharp knife or hunting gun, ensuring the animal dies quickly, without causing much damage to the meat. The next job is to butcher and harvest it. First, they light a fire, lightly heat the skin to shave off the hair, then wash it with spring water. Experienced people always know how to divide the meat reasonably. The thighs and shoulders are used for grilling. The ribs are used for stewing or braising. The head and skin are used to make porridge. And the organs are processed right on the spot into a hot dish in the middle of the forest. Usually grilled over charcoal or cooked with forest leaves to keep the original flavor. The aroma of wild boar meat mixed with the smell of wood smoke spreads in the quiet space, making it unforgettable for anyone who has experienced it. There are groups of hunters who live in the forest for weeks, build temporary shelters, and hunt wild boars not only for meat but also to supply specialty restaurants or lowland people. They consider hunting a large boar a feat, sometimes bringing the pig's head or tusk home to hang as a trophy. Although hardships and dangers always lurk, from poisonous snakes, wild leeches to confronting ferocious prey, for them, it is life, passion and pride. However, not everyone understands that overhunting can gradually deplete wild boars, causing ecological imbalance. Therefore, in many places, people have learned to hunt selectively, only catching them when absolutely necessary, or switching to trapping to move them away from cultivated areas. Some areas have also built farms to breed wild boars, both to meet consumer demand and to preserve rare genetic resources. Even though times change, the image of the hunter crossing the deep forest, patiently searching for every trace, remains a symbol of people living in harmony with nature, taking advantage of what the forest gives with intelligence, experience and courage. After the hunt is over, the hunters often gather around the fire, share the spoils and tell the story of the hunt. In the flickering firelight reflecting on their tanned faces, they recall the moment of confronting the giant wild boar, the tense moments when hearing rustling sounds in the bushes, or the thrill when seeing deep footprints on the wet ground. For them, each hunt is a journey of courage, calculation and respect for nature. When the sky lights up, the wild boar meat is cut into pieces. Wrapped in wild banana leaves or hung on high trees to avoid wild animals. The best parts are brought back to the village, where family and relatives are waiting. In the mountain villages, the day the hunter returns is always a special occasion. The sound of gongs and laughter resounds loudly. Wild boar meat is grilled on hot coals, the aroma spreading everywhere. The elderly recounted their ancestors' hunting traditions, while the young listened attentively, learning from their experiences for future hunts. Hunting wild boars is not only a way to make a living, but also a long-standing cultural feature, demonstrating the bond between humans and the mountains and forests. In some regions, people also consider hunting a large wild boar a lucky sign, signaling a bountiful harvest and a prosperous life. However, with the development of society, forests are increasingly shrinking, and wild boars are gradually becoming rare. Hunters understand that if they continue to hunt indiscriminately, one day there will be no more pigs for them to tell about to the next generation. Therefore, many people have changed, no longer setting large-scale traps but only hunting seasonally or when necessary. Some people have switched to raising semi-wild wild boars, releasing them in fenced forests, feeding them natural foods to maintain their distinctive flavor. This not only helps preserve the species but also brings a stable source of income. with less risk than hunting in the wild. However, in the hearts of those who have devoted their lives to hunting, the memories of nights lying listening to the sound of the forest wind, waiting for the sound of pigs roaring are still intact. Those are indelible memories, witnesses to a time when people lived in the middle of nature, facing danger with courage and ingenuity. And even though the times have changed, the image of a hunter quietly walking through the deep forest, his sharp eyes searching for traces, his calloused hands skillfully setting traps under the canopy of old trees will forever be a symbol of the bravery and tenacious working spirit of people in the mountains after the meat is brought back to the village. People begin the process of preservation and processing. In remote areas without electricity, they often use traditional methods such as smoking, drying or salting to preserve the meat for a long time. The pieces of meat are hung on the kitchen loft, where the smoke sticks to each fiber of the meat, creating a dark brown color and a unique aroma. When eating, people only need to grill or boil it again to spread the rich flavor. The meat is still firm and sweet. For the people of the highlands, smoked wild boar is not only a dish but also a pride. The flavor of the mountains and forests crystallized through skillful labor. As for the hunters, the result of each trip is not only in the amount of meat brought back, but also in the joy of victory, in the connection between people in the challenging wildlife. Each person has their own role, one who tracks, one who digs traps, one who builds huts, one who watches the fire. They understood each other through their eyes.
In the vast ocean, giant sharks lurk under the deep blue water like invisible hunting machines, forcing anyone who dares to face them to be well prepared in terms of skills, equipment and courage. Hunting giant sharks is not only an arduous journey but also a tense battle of wits between humans and creatures at the top of the marine food chain. Fishermen often set out at dawn, when the sea surface is still calm and the light is not strong enough to clearly reveal the dark shadows moving in the deep water. On the deck, hundreds of meters of long fishing lines are tightly coiled, attached to large stainless steel hooks, on which are giant baits, usually tuna or mackerel weighing several kilograms, enough to stimulate the shark's hunting instinct. When the ship enters deep water, where salinity is high and temperature is low, the signal from the sonar begins to scan the water layers. Each bright spot on the screen could be a shark circling in search of food. The fishing team dropped each hook into the sea, each dozens of meters apart, forming a long chain like an invisible wall in the middle of the ocean. After a few hours of waiting, the calm sea suddenly became violently rough. The fishing line was stretched so tight that it made a screeching sound. The whole team rushed to work. 2 people holding the rod, 1 person adjusting the winch, another preparing the safety rope. The giant shark below was struggling violently. Its body could be up to 7 meters long, weighing more than a ton. causing the ship to rock every time it struggled. The tug-of-war sometimes lasted for hours. The fishing line sometimes stretched so tight it almost broke. Water splashed white. The experienced fishermen knew that just a small mistake was enough to cost them both the shark and their lives. When the animal began to weaken, they controlled the winch to pull it closer to the surface. At that moment, its enormous shape was clearly visible through the deep blue water, its large jaws with hundreds of sharp teeth glistening, its cold eyes and its massive body trembling in the sunlight. The fishermen used iron spears and thick ropes to secure it, then slowly pulled it onto the deck. The sight always made anyone who witnessed it for the first time shudder, a creature that was once the lord of the sea, now subdued by the intelligence and strength of humans. Once the shark was brought up, the processing took place right on the ship. Butchers began the work with large knives. Each thick piece of meat was carefully separated and classified. The shark fins were kept separately for export, while the meat was kept in deep freezers. Every part of the fish was valuable. Even the oil from the shark liver was extracted for industrial and medical use. When finished, the deck was red with blood. But everyone understood that it was a worthy reward for many days drifting in the ocean. The sun slowly sets. The heavy ship loaded with spoils returns to port. The sunburned faces, calloused hands and eyes shining with pride are a testament to the brave spirit of the sea hunters. Hunting giant sharks is not just a job, but also a symbol of resilience. Strengthen the complex relationship between humans and nature, where each trip to sea is a challenge between life and death. When the ship docks, giant shark tanks are lowered by crane, and large blocks of meat are loaded onto refrigerated trucks for transport to the processing plant. Here, the processing is carried out professionally and strictly. After being washed with cold sea water, the sharks are divided into different parts: meat, fins, liver and skin. Each part has its own purpose. Nothing is wasted. The thick, firm white meat is cut into large blocks and put into a superfast freezer to be preserved at -40 degrees Celsius, preserving freshness and flavor. The fins are separated, thoroughly cleaned and then dried naturally in the sun or dried by machine for export to Asian markets, where they are considered a high-class ingredient for expensive dishes. The shark liver, which contains a rich amount of oil, is put into a special extraction furnace, producing a golden oil used in cosmetics and pharmaceuticals, while the shark skin is chemically treated to make high-end leather goods, durable, shiny and luxurious. Each step is carried out meticulously, reflecting the long-standing industry of coastal areas that live off shark hunting. Outside the factory, the smell of salty sea mixed with the smell of fresh fish The atmosphere is bustling as hundreds of workers work busily. The sound of machinery rumbles. Trucks come and go constantly. Each fishing season, dozens of tons of sharks are harvested, becoming a large source of income for the entire fishing village. But alongside the hustle and bustle is the worry that the offshore fish stocks are gradually depleting. Many veteran fishermen share that in the past, they only had to go out a few dozen nautical miles to see the shadow of a shark swimming around their ship. But now they have to go hundreds of kilometers to see one. The ocean is vast but not as endless as before. That is why some fishing fleets have begun to change their fishing methods. They use more modern positioning equipment, limit the amount of bait and only select fish of a certain size, both to maintain the traditional profession and to contribute to preserving the ecological balance of the ocean. The trips, which last for weeks, sometimes months, always contain many thrilling stories. Once, a ship was dragged dozens of nautical miles by a giant shark in the middle of the night. The fishing line almost broke, forcing the whole crew to struggle for 10 hours to control it. Sometimes a storm comes suddenly. High waves like a wall of water crashing onto the deck, threatening to sweep everything away. In those moments, only bravery and team spirit can help them overcome. The old seamen say that each shark they catch is not only a trophy but also a testament to the experience, will and courage of people in the face of harsh nature. When night falls, they sit on the side of the boat, looking out at the vast, endless space, where the waves gently lapping like the breath of the sea. Below, in the darkness, hundreds of other sharks are still swimming silently, continuing their endless life cycle. Humans can hunt. Can win individual battles, but the ocean is always a larger world, where each creature plays its role in the great balance of nature. And so, despite the countless profits from hunting, the fishermen truly understand that only by respecting and preserving the ocean can they continue to live off it, like children of the waves and wind, forever attached to a life drifting in the endless ocean. In recent years, the technique of hunting giant sharks has also changed a lot. In the past, people only used traditional hand lines or long lines. But now there are electric winches, hydraulic fishing rods and satellite positioning devices to help accurately determine the shark's movement area. Modern shark hunting ships are equipped with freezers, underwater surveillance cameras, and even radar to detect large creature movements. When a shark is detected, the captain orders the line to be released. and the entire system operates smoothly like a giant machine. The winch operator adjusts the appropriate pulling force to avoid breaking the line, while the sonar observer continuously reports the depth and direction of movement. Under the deep water, the giant shark struggles violently, sometimes rushing straight into the bottom of the ship or diving to the bottom of the sea to cut the line. Its power is so terrible that just one swing can make the entire deck shake. At that time, the sailor must quickly reduce the winch force and loosen the line to avoid breaking the hook. The battle between man and shark is not only a physical battle but also a battle of wits. Every wrong decision can cause the whole crew to lose everything. There are giant white sharks that are more than 8 meters long and weigh over 2 tons, causing the small boat to tilt completely to one side when pulled up. The roar of the engine, the sound of the wire, the sound of the waves mixed with the shouts of the fishermen create a scene that is both dramatic and fierce. When the shark rises from the water, the sunlight shines on its silver-gray skin, hundreds of teeth shining under the sunlight. Its cold eyes like steel make anyone who sees it shiver. To ensure safety, fishermen use wire guns or iron spears to attach an anchor rope to the tail, then pull it to a fixed area. Some large ships have specialized cranes to lift fish weighing tons from the water to the deck. When the fish is suspended, water drips from its gills and falls onto the deck, creating a terrifying splashing sound. At that time, no one said anything. Only the sound of the engine still echoed steadily in the middle of the sea. After landing, the workers began to cut and separate each part. They worked skillfully. Each stroke was precise, fast and decisive. The meat was classified. The bones were separated. The fins were cut and neatly arranged on stainless steel trays. Each person knew their duties because they had spent decades in the profession. After that, the fish were put into the cold hold, and the ship continued its journey, searching for new waters. The whole group ate hastily on the deck. In the wind and the sea, salt soaked into every fiber of their clothes. They told each other about their previous trips, the times when sharks pulled their ropes off, or accidents that seemed impossible to escape. Some people had been hit by sharks that broke the side of the ship. Some were almost swept into the sea when the fishing line suddenly tightened. But it seemed that those dangers did not scare them, but only made them respect and understand better the creatures they were facing. As night fell, the ocean turned pitch black. A cold wind blew, causing the surface of the sea to foam. The lights from the ship cast a dim light onto the water, attracting countless small fish to come closer. Deep down, somewhere one could still see the shadows of sharks quietly swimming around. They were like immortal souls of the ocean, both terrifying and mysterious. The old